Okay, Madam Chair, thank you.
Yep. Okay, you're all set?
I am. And we are recording.
Okay. So, okay, 7:31 p.m. To order. I can the approval of the minutes, and if I can have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Somebody want to?
Motion
I
to
can make a
approve the
motion to
agenda.
approve the agenda.
Okay, thanks. Chris and Steve, second. You get that? Then we have two applications this evening. The first
Okay,
one,
just for clarification, we do need to a motion to defer the minutes because once more, we do not have the person, so we
document
need
in
to
front of
defer
us.
to the next regular
Okay,
meeting.
Motion to defer the minutes.
Okay, if you could say your name, please, because I'm. Okay, Chris
Jim
is
Malore,
second.
motion to submit the motion to defer the minutes.
Jim, and then Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, this is interesting. The audio is going in and out, so hopefully it won't be too
We'll
bad
try
this
to work
evening.
through it.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so the first application we have, we welcome back Dr. Shamban. This is a driveway reconfiguration and the window replacement of the residents at 26323 Henry. We did talk about the driveway again last time, but Dr. Shamban, if you want to
Madam Chair, just for clarification for the record, the driveway issue's already been approved, so it was one application at the last meeting. So right now, the only thing you have before you on that was the window replacement, which was tabled. Because in Public Act 169, things that are not acted on within a 60-day period are automatically deemed approved. You have to vote this down, as Dr. Shambam is not ready to present for that. He certainly is free to reapply and come back with the windows once he has more information. But he and I had conversations about this. And at this point in time, my understanding is he's not ready to present for the windows, but he does want to go ahead with the second part.
That is correct.
So my guess is if I made a motion to decline the windows, that would be
okay.
appropriate.
That would be appropriate.
Okay,
Then I'll make a motion to deny the windows.
I'll second that.
And
Okay.
that would be, just for clarification, that would be based on lack of information?
Yes, because there's been no further information presented.
Thank
I
you.
will second that.
okay, Chris and Rob. Move on to matter B.
Well, you have to vote.
We need to vote.
You have to have a vote. You have to have a vote.
Sorry. Yep, okay. All those in favor of denying the request for the window replacement?
Please
at this
raise your
time?
hand.
Aye.
So that's Robert, Jim, Steve, Chris, me,
Jim.
and Rick.
Yeah, Rick is raising his hand.
Yeah,
Not very high, but he's raising it.
I can't
Okay,
see his
Madam
head,
Chair,
so-
you are on to your next item.
Yes. So again, the Shamban residents were talking about the new porch cap, columns, and the walkway. Dr. Shamban, do you have anything to say in regards to your project?
Yeah, so as I mentioned last time, I don't know, I think I just briefly talked about it. As we're redoing, the driveway, obviously I'm going to have one company do everything. So it made sense to, take care of the adjacent porch that's abutting the driveway, along with the adjacent walkway that I would be putting in, next to the driveway. So it makes sense to get all those done, while I'm doing all of these projects. So essentially the porch that is adjacent to my driveway, or the back porch, I guess, it's in very poor shape. There is some structural issues, particularly with the columns. They're kind of like hanging on from a thread. They're actually not safe at all. So we've been wanting to get them, taken care of, and this is obviously the best time to do it because we're doing everything, at this time. So what I'm proposing is, similar design, just kind of what it is, but just obviously, updated because I'm replacing, it. But I would use similar types of column beams, or the ones that we have right now. I would use the same brick for the base of the porch, and we would just reconstruct it so it would be more structurally sound, because at this moment in time it is not structurally sound.
Okay, Hank?
And then for the adjacent walkway, what I'm proposing is the cement. Again, I don't know if you guys recall, but we can re-show the images. The driveway that was initially put in, there's a lot of, so part of it, obviously we would remove, and the stuff that's, we would just kind of be adding in that space, but it would be more of like a brick paver / stone type of, walkway. So when you get out of your car, you're not, you're not stepping on the grass or so forth. So it would be very similar in terms of the dimensions that are currently right now.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Okay, well, I don't want to cut you off because the audio has been going in and out.
No, I submitted the proposals, the drawings or the schematics that the company that would be doing the work.
Okay. Hank?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if there's a couple clarifications we might get before the commission starts their deliberations or their question period. To clarify, the columns that you're planning on putting back would be wood, just like they are now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there are no synthetic materials or anything, it's just wood for wood replacement.
Yeah, and they would be, the style would be identical. They would not be, it would be identical style. And again, we have similar style on the front porch, so it would look similar. It would just be
same molding, same trim, same.
Yes,
everything.
and that's
Okay.
and that's what was proposed in the
Okay.
schematic.
And then the other clarification we have is that you would be taking off the top cap and you would be putting on a paver top cap. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then for the steps, you would be using the stone that you had sent samples in. Did everybody see those, or does everybody need to see those?
I'd like to see them.
More than the pictures.
Okay. So let me do this.
Hi, Jules.
Hey,
Okay, what did you do there, buddy?
It's gonna show.
Oh,
Okay, so that's the pavers that you would intend to use, correct?
For what part?
Whatever part, where are you proposing those?
Yeah, those would be part of the steps. Correct.
Okay. And then this is what you're looking at for the walkway, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this is what you're talking about here. That would be a paver border. Can everybody see the cursor that I'm using here? This would be a paver
No.
border. You can't
You
see
have to
this?
reshare, Hank. We can't see the PDFs. You got to reshare
No, it just says
Okay,
PDF.
hold on. We will get to it. Hold on. Let's give this a second to load here. Okay, now can you see it?
Do you have more than one monitor, Jake? Hank? Because all we're seeing is your Windows Explorer or the File Explorer.
I do not. Hold on. Let's see, hold on, let me get rid of that. Let's try this. Now,
I've not
can
seen.
you see that now?
Oh,
No.
No.
Okay, hold on, we'll get it figured out.
So can you just tell us the name of the paver that we're supposed to be looking at? Because you've got two different styles there. And
Right, that's the diagram that I'm trying to get up there, shows you where they go. There are two different components to that. I'm not sure why this isn't letting me do this, but I'm going to try something different here.
You've disabled sharing, otherwise I'd help you, Hank.
Yeah, I can't figure this out. Well, the sharing, we had an incident last night, so.
Yeah, I figured that's what happens. I know. I just spend my days on Zoom, so
Well, here, I'm letting
getting
you
pretty
share.
comfortable with it.
If you can share that, I'm not sure, but. Okay.
Oh, there you go. I can probably share now, Hank. See if
Okay.
I can help. Can you see that?
Yep.
So, Hank, and you can, I'll steer if you want to correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay,
Let's see. But
this is the,
you can see that's the column on the corner of the porch. So this is the elevated portion of the porch right here. And there looks like there's one paver style right here. And then the border is the brick. There's a, paver. This is the step right here. And then there's the walk. So it's got one paver style around the edges. And then the infill is a different paver style. And then.
that's the one I wanted to show.
Yeah, I just figured I'd get it all done for you. There you go.
Yeah, can you rotate that? Yeah.
Yep. So you can see the bricks along the edge. There's a different paver in the middle. And then, this is, I don't know if this is the same variation in terms of the tone as this, or if it's a different one just to make the treads of the stair.
That's exactly how I'm interpreting it.
And then there may be another material on the edge of the risers. Don't know if it's the same material as this or not.
And that's what we can ask Dr. Sambam to explain.
Hank, the posts being shown in that picture look different than the posts as they look now and described by Dr. Shanban.
They're
The difference,
significantly smaller.
the difference there being is that when you take a look at this is a computer generated image, and the actual post, which I would like to be able to show you, and I'm hopefully able to do that in a second. Chris, I'm going to can you close this out?
Yeah, I'll stop sharing and then it's your turn.
Thank you. So let's see if we can do this way. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the column here, if everybody can see that, you can see where the deterioration is on the bottom portion of it. You're looking at a piece of roughly 1/6, I'm guessing, along with the trim molding on the top portion. That's what it would be. The computer generated image indicates this area to be much smaller than it actually is. But this is what we would expect to be replicated.
The only other thing that which is structurally not sound, I don't know. So if you want to go to image 4, which depicts it pretty well. Can you see image 4?
Okay, I don't have them the same way you do.
It's the one where you can see the post is hanging off the concrete.
You can see it here.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that's a more zoom version. Anyways, that is, when I've talked to them, they said that is not, that needs to be built out. So it needs to be completely over it. So I don't know how it's not structurally sound. That's probably why it deteriorated and so forth, because it's hanging over, the concrete, and there's a big gap. There should not be a gap there.
Well, the trim here is about 1 inch. It's hanging over more than that, but this is wood. This is 1x. I'm going to guess there's a 4x4 inside that. So and that's what holds up the column.
No, because it's when you touch it, it's like falling off. Like if my daughter puts any weight on that, the thing will completely fall off. There's nothing. It's because half of it is kind of coming off this, and that's why there's not enough support for it.
No, so, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that inside this 1x, because 1x is not dimensional lumber to the extent that it would support anything. So I'm assuming that there may be a structural member in there, and this is the trim pieces that go around it. But I don't know that. It would make structural sense to me, and perhaps Jim and Chris can weigh in on that.
You're correct, Hank. There's going to be a 4x4 inside that post.
Right.
Does not negate what you're describing.
Right.
About the issue there. So I think these are semantics. We don't need to dwell on that. I mean, if there's got to be a replacement of the post, that's totally legitimate.
So other than that, and showing you what we have here, and this is the actual area here, and it shows the steps. Now the steps are not anywhere near original. So those are precast steps. They probably got them at Atlas or Durst or something like that around in the area. This is a slightly different view. Again, the reminder that all this drive has already been approved. And there's another view of the deterioration.
Hey, Hank, do you have anything further?
No, I just want to make sure that all his photos get displayed, and then if there's any questions from the commission, I'm happy to answer. You all have the reports and the agendas.
Okay. Time to go back to full gallery view. Okay, Robert, do you have any questions for Dr. Shanban?
I do. Do you have a written proposal by your contractor specifying specifically what he's going to do, stating specifically what size lumber he's going to be using?
We gave, I don't know, Hank, I don't know what Tom gave you, but he should have given you some sort of proposal or everything that you requested.
He did not give me that information. But
I'm very,
But
I'm
he
very
can definitely
uncomfortable
provide
with
it.
the,
I mean,
I'm very uncomfortable with the language where you say very similar, and then you say the same as. Very similar and the same as are not the same. The same as is what I'm looking for. Very similar is precisely what I am not looking for. I was at your house. I looked at this very closely. I saw exactly what the situation is. And absolutely, the bottoms of those columns are deteriorated and certainly need replacement, as does the porch, and you need some heavy-duty brickwork too. The column itself seems to be intact. It's not rotten, it doesn't sound bad, it doesn't even have any soft wood on it. So the interior is probably fine, but I want to know that that column is going to be either restored, which is the number one choice, repaired, or replicated precisely as it is.
yeah, I mean, the column will be, I mean, it's going to look identical to that because if we have similar columns on our the other porch, so it's going to match how it's going to look. There, I mean, there's not going to be any difference. I mean,
perhaps Dr. Shambam, I can help. I think what he's looking for is he wants to know that is the columns that are proposed to be built going to replicate exactly what is there now?
yeah. I mean, doesn't the schematic show that? I mean, I don't know.
No.
It does. It
No.
doesn't.
No.
But
I mean,
that's why
what are
he's
you?
asking
I
for
mean, I mean, what is wood? I guess I'm not trying to be like funny here, but I don't. It's gonna look identical to this. Like I don't understand what. I mean, how identical do you want it to? I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, it's not gonna be wood. You know, from 1952. It's gonna be wood from 2020. Like in a similar in an identical way. I'm sorry, I'm using identical versus similar, but it's
Identical dimensions.
yes,
That's almost
yes.
right.
It would be
Dimensions.
yes, it would be identical dimensions and identical style.
So that language would need to be written into whatever motion we make
Because there's no.
to maintain the integrity. And then beyond that, I want to move on to the pavers. The pavers is a whole different issue, I think. They're introducing a brand new material that is not period appropriate. It is not historically appropriate. It is creating a false sense of time. Those are modern materials. I would not be able to support that at all. It is concrete. It should be concrete without any adornments or modifications. This is about restoration and maintenance of historic properties, not the prettyment of historic properties. I'm not trying to make them more glamorous, trying to restore them to what they originally were.
I do not know that you know, I don't know how much of that's so those. First of all, those steps are not original. So
How do you know?
I'm sorry? No, those are not. I mean,
I can tell you those steps are not
I had
original.
multiple contractors say that those are not original. Because there's nothing structurally that's not.
I can assure you those steps are not original.
What difference does that make?
Hey, Robert.
So, and the proposal, I mean, so Backers Landscaping, they're one of the biggest, you know, landscaping companies out on the east side. They work with a lot of historic homes, and this was done by a landscape architect. And this is, he said, this would fit this style and the design, you know, of that. And that's what that was his suggestion. And again,
This needs to fit the Secretary of Interior standards. Now, those are what we work with.
No, I understand
And
that, but
introducing the new material and a new pattern is not within those standards at all, not in any configuration. So utilizing those pavers as a step, as a porch cap, or as a walkway along a driveway is inappropriate. That's my say on it. That's my say.
Robert, you don't have anything further?
Not right now, but I may in the future.
Okay, great. We'll revisit. You have something else to add. Rick, do you have any questions for Dr. Shamban?
My feelings are similar to Robert's. I just make a suggestion that if we do a motion, maybe we should bifurcate it. So we have two separate motions.
Okay, do you have anything further?
No.
Okay, Chris?
Hey, I have a quick question just in terms of if the porch were presented with concrete on top, concrete versus the pavers, would that be an administrative review from you then because there is no change of materials?
It would.
And then the last component is the steps themselves, because they're clearly not historic. Anything could be interpreted to creating false sense of historicism. So it's probably better from the Department of Interior standpoint to do something that is clearly different.
That would be also correct.
So, I guess if I look at this, I would break it down maybe into 3 components just to make things difficult. But I guess on the column replacement, I think adding to the motion to just from a dimensional standpoint, but from my standpoint, the construction techniques of those columns is not something that's, it's one by material. I agree with matching the height of the base, which is out proud of the column enclosure themselves. And if there's any trim, just making that as part of the motion. But I have no problem with replacing that material because I do not feel that the construction techniques are unique enough to merit restoration. And then, I think other people are going to dissect whether or not it should be concrete or pavers. I prefer the concrete, but that's my own personal opinion. And then it would have been an administrative review and it would have been easier. That's all I have for now.
Okay, Steve?
I think that I agree somewhat with Robert's assessment that the pavers and that kind of that mismatched kind of square rectangular pattern represents a more of a change in what would be accommodatable in the front of a house, clearly viewed from the street. And so I think that the concrete would be more appropriate to replace it with. And I'm just curious with that with the downspout, is that appropriate or should that be reworked at this point in time? It looks like it might be going into some sort of underground drain. I don't know.
At this point in time, there's been no indication by Dr. Shamban that he wants to work on the gutters or downspouts at all. So that's not anything that would be before the board.
well,
But it's
So-
going into a sewer.
Yeah, it looks like it's going into a sewer or something.
That would be a code issue that we can look at without the HDC.
Okay.
so just to give you guys more information, so when they pull up the concrete, we're going to connect that that line, the one that you're seeing on the driveway, to the drain, because we're going to be installing a storm drain, so that will all be going in there. We're going to connect that. But obviously, when they get pulled up, like when they pull up all the concrete and the cement.
So basically what you're talking about is that you have a line that's coming in from the back that's going around under, that's going to a pop-up, and that would also tie into that pop-up in the front yard. Is that correct?
Correct.
Steve, do you have anything further?
No, the only thing that I might want to say is it may be easier if this looks like it's going to be problematic to divide this into separate motions. I think we should get a little feel for maybe some of the other comments on the project to see whether or not it makes sense to make the rebuild of the columns one and maybe the balance of it a second motion.
Okay, Chris and Rick already alluded to that fact as well, so thank you. Jim, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to Steve's point about getting the feel of it, to me, the porch itself, it's clear it's concrete today. It ought to be concrete in the future. I have no issue with the replacement and reconstruction of the columns as long as they are like for like and all the trim pieces match. I want to just say, you know, this image with a very small trim piece at the bottom of the column does not equal this image with a taller trim piece at the bottom. So this is what we're describing, Dr. Shamban. It's not about the wood is wood or whatever. Very good, Chris.
Can we ask people to speak up a little bit? If you wouldn't mind speaking up, some people are having trouble hearing.
So if you look at the other photos, just to kind of interject, one of them is hanging off and one of them is not. And what I'm proposing is neither one of them would be hanging off, because I don't think that's structurally sound, and I don't think that's what the current design is not safe, and that's why it fell apart.
I'm not. All I'm describing is the height. Yeah, like what Chris was showing, the height of the bottom piece needs to match from the current to the new. If you need to rebuild the porch, as long as that has the top, in my opinion, as long as the top surface is concrete like it is today, as was mentioned, the steps, if they're not existing, if the existing steps are clearly not the original steps, we don't know what those would have been in the past. I think that architecturally, you're using way too many materials for this. This could all be done with pavers. It could all be done with tile. Any number of things. I won't kind of argue, because it needs to look new. There's way too much going on, but that's for you to decide. So I would agree that as long as we can divest this into, you know, everything from the porch up and then from the porch down, I think we can give you some guidance here tonight. But to me, the existing concrete porch, it can be new concrete, but it ought to be concrete again and not a new tile and paver design that does not match the adjacent brick or the existing concrete.
And are we certain that that's original concrete? Because
I think it'd be up to the applicant to prove that it's not, right? I mean, to me, the brick that it's built on top of appears to be matching the house. So that would tell me that it was built at the exact same time as the rest of the house. And we don't have the option to just say it might not be there. I mean,
no, the only reason why I question it is because the style is completely different on my front porch. So that kind of makes me question, is that original? And just because if you walk on it, it just doesn't feel sturdy. It feels like it was done later on. And again, you guys are more than... No, I'm questioning just because...
There's all kinds of reasons why that may be. Porches are often built on a completely different foundation system than the rest of the house. So that to me does not mean that it's not original. I would say that the brick matching the rest of the house is a key indicator that it was built at the same time as the house. And you can see that you have a stoop, or you have a sill that's stone at your front door. That is, you know, just the right distance above that concrete. I don't see there's any reason to think that it was not concrete originally.
All right.
Mark?
I'm just giving you my opinion. That's all.
No, I know. I don't. Okay.
Okay, moving on. Martha, do you have anything to ask?
I guess I have a couple things to say. I too have visited and looked closely at your porch, and I believe that it needs to maintain concrete as the top. I'm pretty sure that the current pavers that are made out of concrete nowadays would not be anything that we would see back when this home was built. And I think our best bet is to stick with the concrete for the cap. I'm concerned about introducing too many different materials. It doesn't make sense, and it just ends up creating too much variation from the original. I'm also a little concerned, you were breaking up when you were talking about your contractor being a landscaper, and I'm wondering why you're not using a mason to tuck point the brick on your porch.
So,
planning on.
Can I answer that? Can I answer that question?
Yeah, I'd like to, because you were breaking up and I couldn't hear all of it.
So that's why I went with Backers Landscaping. It's a one-stop shop. They have masonry. They have everyone in house. It will be a mason, a person who does brickwork. Will be doing that. So they have. It's not going to be like a landscaper doing it. It's just that they provide all the services, and that's why I went with them.
Okay, so you'll be reusing the brick then, so you'll have the same brick
I
color?
will be reusing for the side. I will be reusing either whatever is either matching it identically, or reusing whatever is is viable, I guess, or still in good shape, because some of those bricks are not in good shape.
Okay.
So just for clarification, then, Dr. Shaman, it's your inclination to you want to reclaim whatever brick is there and use as much of that as possible for your project.
Correct. Whatever is whatever brick can be salvaged, I would like to use all of it. If I can use all of it, then I would like to use all of it.
And then the grout color, you're going to match the grout color with the
correct. Everything,
like
I said, identical. That's the language you guys want to hear, and that's the language I said identical.
Okay, so yes, we want to hear it. For my purposes, I would be much more comfortable seeing a schematic with all of that called out on it. And I think that's why a lot of us have so many questions. And I think that's something that we asked for from you when we were discussing windows last time around. When we have it in writing, then we know exactly what we're dealing with. And you can say one thing in a meeting, but your interpretation of that to your contractor and the conversation between you and your contractor may change because you're not familiar with some of these terms. So that is my concern, that that everything is going to be as we're discussing it tonight, that the specs are going to be called out properly. I also am concerned about the downspout that is disappearing into the driveway, because I too am aware that that's a code violation. And if you are already going to dig up the driveway, I was wondering how that's going to be changed or rectified. So
perhaps you missed that, but it was his intention to go down into the ground and Y in to a line that's coming from the backyard to drain to a pop in the front. And that's where that water would be discharged.
Okay. And that's to code?
Sure, absolutely. Pop-up would give him overland and create a sedation rate. Okay. So that would be acceptable. Not only acceptable, it would be preferable.
Okay, all righty. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that anybody else hasn't covered. I have checked the column and I realized that it is partially leaning off the cap of your porch, and it is not vertical right now, probably because your porch has shifted. So that's why it's leaning off of there. If it were completely vertical, it would be back on top of the cap. It's just that there's probably been some settling there. Only the bottom part looks like it needs to be replaced. And if you could save the bulk of that and just change up the trim on the bottom and then repaint it, that would probably be preferable over replicating the whole piece. But it's imperative that the trim work be done the way it is existing now. Other than that, I don't have any other comments. But
Madam, go ahead. I'm sorry, Martha.
well,
Were you finished?
yeah, I guess so. I just want to make sure that you recognize that a concrete is the way to go, both for the cap and the steps, as far as I'm concerned.
Madam Chair, before you get to Mark, who has yet to weigh in on this, just for clarification, if you have a motion that you could include, for example, the components being matching the existing components, like your 1x matching your 1x, your OG trim or whatever it is matching the OG trim, those are the kind of things that you could incorporate into a motion to replicate exactly as it is. We do have photo documentation, so it would not be hard to discern exactly what's being put in versus what exactly is there now. So just for clarification, you can make that part of your motion.
Right, and I think that Dr. Chambin has been pretty clear that the columns will be replicated identically, as Chris was showing the schematic, especially at the bottom portion of that with the trim. Okay, Mark, do you have any questions for Dr. Chambin?
I think the subject of the concrete has been pretty well covered. I don't have any questions or comments about that. As far as the columns go, I think Martha has cleared up one question I had regarding the column that's hanging over the edge of the porch. I was going to ask if that, if anybody had checked to see if that column was out of plumb. Dr. Chambin, are you familiar with that term, plumb?
No.
It means vertical, straight up and down, not off an angle. Okay?
It would be like at a right angle to the porch cap.
Yeah. Completely vertical, 90 degrees off a flat plane.
Okay.
Okay. If it's out of plumb, obviously it'd be a question of why. And as Martha suggested, it probably either was slid off its original position, or perhaps was accidentally knocked off position. So presumably there's nothing structurally wrong with it. It just needs to be repositioned.
Right.
The only other thing I had was I'm not.
How do you prove that though? I mean, how do you prove that statement?
Well, let me get to that next. We've already talked about the columns not being hollow. Inside the boards that form what you see is a piece of 4x4 lumber that is actually the load bearing piece. That is the actual column. Okay, now if you remove those trim pieces at the bottom and you see no indication of rot at the bottom of the outside 1x's, then you can pretty well assume that there's no rot in the 1x4 either, which means that it is structurally sound and can just be moved over to where it should be. At that point, if there's no rot at the bottom of the 1x's, then all you have to do is replace those trim pieces. And believe me, I have done that myself on my own house, and I'm no carpenter. It's an extremely easy thing to do. And from what I can see in the photographs, I see no reason to believe that there's any reason to do more than replace that trim.
Right.
So I completely disagree. Not from my own, because I'm not a carpenter, I can't comment on that. But I've had when we renovated our house, or when I had bids come out, they say that I've had multiple individuals say this is not safe. It's not as simple. I've even had people say they don't want to do it because it's not as easy as it looks. So I'm not a carpenter. I can't comment on that, but I've had professionals tell me that it's not as simple as just doing, because I mean, that's all I can just comment from that I don't know. Again, if I was a carpenter, I could probably speak more eloquently on that, but I don't know that just saying that it's a simple thing to replace. I don't think that's fair to say that.
So what you think is that there's a need to completely replace the columns. Is that correct?
It's not structurally sound. It is not. It
How
is
do
not
you know
safe.
that?
I'm sorry.
How do you know that it's not structurally sound?
Because of my.
If nobody has removed the outside cladding and looked at the inner support piece, how can you possibly know that it's not structurally sound?
Because as soon as anyone puts anyone that with weight, including my daughters, when they try to lean on that, you can kind of see it. You know, the beam trying to fall down. I don't know how else you want me to explain that to you. It's if you want to come over here and you want to put some weight on it, you know, the beam will fall down. I mean, it will fall down. And if you want to guarantee me that no one's going to get, it's not safe. I don't know how else you want me to portray that to you.
Hey, can I ask just a quick interjection here? The applicant is asking to replace the post. My motion would be to replace the post. And I'm going to prove that whether it's sound or not is not what I care about right now, because that's a code compliance and an issue that's not my purveyance. True or false? I'm going to give them a motion to replace the post, and it's going to look exactly the same. That's what he asked for.
That's a no.
But just to be clear on that, there's, again, just to go over the construction of the post, as I understand how posts are made, and I do have a fairly extensive familiarity with this. Inside the one by is ornamental. The one by is what you see. If there can be only two things that happen with that. One is if the wood is moving on the outside, it's either the ornamental wood moving to the point that it hits the post, or it's both components that are moving. What can the causes of that be? The cause can be is that the concrete has either A, deteriorated, B, shifted in some way so that it no longer has a firm footing on the porch cap. When it has that, then at that point in time, if you're replacing the outside ornamental wood, and if that's what you're willing to allow for the motion, the inside 4x4 or doubled 2x4s or whatever may be in there would be almost irrelevant, because you don't see those anyway. Those are structural things. That's like a beam there or a header that might be inside a wall that nobody would ever see. So I'll let the architects correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, that's kind of where the thought process is on that. Chris, Jim?
Madam Chair, may I say something?
Yes, Robert.
I think Chris is absolutely right. If the post needs to be replaced, replace it. That's not a big deal. It's the facade that we should probably be more concerned with. But there's a photograph inside this packet, and I saw it this afternoon in person also, where there is a very large ground fissure at the very base, the corner of that side porch. And that driveway has dropped. It's pretty obvious. The porch has dropped. It's slipping away. It's slipping to the north. The steps are pulling away. And I would not be at all surprised if that interior post, of course, has slipped down also. And there are going to be issues, I bet, with the roof, with that overhanging roof. If there's nothing supporting it, and it's just hanging in there by virtue of whatever post column is left, there's going to be more work to be done here. And taking that column down is the only way to expose that, to see what's really going on. If you go to that house and you check it out, you'll see there really is some work that needs to be investigated. It's not just a pretty column that needs to be replaced.
Well,
I think structural, go ahead.
That's the reason Dr. Chambin is here, to get approval to replace a deteriorated porch, to replace the columns. I don't think, as to Hank's point, he said it before I did, the interior of a post doesn't matter as long as the outside is going to be replicated. So, you know, I don't think that the column is an issue. To Robert's point, once they take it off and investigate more, maybe Dr. Shamban will want to be here, but we're not talking about that right now. We need to, discuss what's before us, and that's the porch and the columns.
Madam Chair, may I suggest that before you continue with commissioners' comments and everybody has had an opportunity to speak, is that you might want to move to public participation to see if there's anybody that has any comments they wish to address towards this project?
That's fine. Does anybody object to moving to public participation at this moment? Okay, then we welcome Dr. Shamban's neighbor, Jules Olsman.
Hello.
Jules?
Yes. All right. My name is Jules Olsman, and I live next door to Dr. Shambaum and his family. Our address is 26341 Hendry. Let me just give you some insights into the property that we're talking about here. I've lived here for 30 years. These two homes are sister homes. They were built at the exact same time by the exact same builder, Marvin Goldman. Marvin Goldman lived in our house for 6 months and then moved. He sold the house to Marvin Frankel and his wife, Barbara. They were the original owners of the property. Dr. Shambaum is the second owner of that house. So, we've lived here for 30 years, and everything you're talking about, I see every day, multiple times a day. I will tell you that until the Shambaums bought the home last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was now, it was in a very serious state of disrepair. It had been vacant. When I say vacant, I mean the owner lived in Florida. He was not here at all. The property was very much neglected, not painted, in terrible condition. The driveway is a debacle. We took a tree down probably, I'm going to say, more than 10 years ago that was about half and half on the driveway and on our property. And there's a huge hump from the root in the driveway. The driveway is cracked and it's really in terrible shape. I can tell you that that porch is not structurally sound. You can see it. All you have to do is look at it. The brick is badly deteriorated underneath. Those steps, as Hank said, to say they came from Durst would be a compliment. I don't know where Mr. Frankel found those steps, but I assure you that there was price. I'm sure price was the only factor that went into deciding what to use there. They're pure garbage. There's no other way to say it. I respectfully disagree on that column. I do not believe that column is structurally sound. That just knowing how poorly the house has been maintained in terms of paint and rot and everything like that, if that was mine, I would be very concerned. And as all of you know, I'm very sensitive to the historic district regulations, and I'm very supportive. Our front porch on our house is interlocking brick. Granted, it was done before the Historic Commission came into effect, but it is an interlocking brick. It's not concrete. It's an interlocking brick surface all the way across. We also have columns that were changed out over the years because of rot and everything like that. There's just no way to avoid that. On as far as this issue as to whether or not the surface needs to be concrete, I mean, it's reasonable. The houses were built in 1952, so they're 68 years old. And so I can't say for sure that that's the same. I can tell you it's the same slab of concrete that's been there since 1990. That I can assure you. Nothing has been done. Another thing you need to keep in mind about this porch is it is inset back. In other words, yes, it's on the front of the house, yes, but it's set in. It's an entrance into the, like a side entrance off the garage into the house. It's not, definitely not the main entrance to it, but it is off to the driveway there. So, and I have repeatedly, told Leo how important it is to, watch this carefully in terms of what's presented. And, what we're looking for is to try to keep the houses, I don't want to say symmetrical, I want to say in keeping with one another. I think that as I never sat on the historic, but on the planning commission and the ZBA, I frequently was critical of builders and contractors who left the homeowner sort of out there trying to explain what they wanted to do or not want to do. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that here tonight in terms of this interlocking brick. So or an interlocking brick surface that they want to use. But what I want you to keep in mind is it's a very, until the Shanbaums took it over and began their restoration project on it, it was a horribly neglected property. I mean, the Ritters live on the other side, and having been in their backyard and looked at the windows and everything like that, I mean, the outside of the windows, they haven't been painted in decades. I mean, it's just in terrible, terrible shape. And when Leo first bought it, I said, you just don't know where to start because there's so many projects that need to be done. But I think that this porch is an important, obviously it's an important area because it's of ingress and egress. He does have little kids. It is the way it sits today, the way I see it, it is not structurally sound. And so I think, to the extent that you realize that this is work that's being done because it absolutely has to be done. This isn't work that's being done because somebody wants to change the look or anything. This thing is falling down. So, but I'm here to support the project overall because he has showed me what he's got in mind. He's told me what he's got in mind. And I have repeatedly assured him that his best route is to make sure that Mr. Berry knows all of these things and has all the information because he's going to present it to all of you. So, like I said, this is a badly, badly neglected property that's finally getting some good quality restoration. And I think considering what this porch is, considering we don't know when the steps, we don't know any of those things in terms of what was done. I can just tell you that very little was done for maintenance or preventative maintenance, if you want to call it that, even so far as painting is concerned. That's why I would be very dubious about the structural integrity of that column. I would be very dubious about it. I haven't drilled through it to see what it looks like, but I'd be very dubious about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jules. Lois, do you have anything to say? You were
No.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. With that, then we'll go ahead and close public participation. Thanks for joining us, Jules.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions or comments regarding the porch at this moment? Would anybody like to make a motion? Or several motions?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
If I could just recap just a little bit, because it might help the commissioners decide where they want to go with this.
Absolutely.
Where I'm hearing we're at right now is the column is less of an issue because of the structure, and it does support the roof up above. And if it's moved, it's likely not because the column is moved, it's because the porch is sunk or the foundation or something has deteriorated to the point where that's shifted. Having said that, then if the brick comes out and the brick goes back and they discover that the footing is no good or there isn't a full footing or something of that nature, at that point in time, that could be corrected. So the issues that I'm hearing, unless I'm hearing it wrong, because I'm sure there's going to be people that want just parts of the column repaired, is that the porch with the same material, rebuilt with the same material, is not as much of a problem. What the biggest issue that everybody's having is the stairs, the walkway, and the porch cap. So those are things that you probably should flush out. If you give him the motion to approve the columns like has been discussed, that's one thing, but then you also decide what that column has to sit on, and that's where you're going to have a separate motion for how that's going to be built.
Okay. We can
Madam
go.
Chair, I have a question, please.
Make a motion. Can I comment?
Yeah, hang on just a second, Robert.
My question is there an option for what that step is going to be? If the tile paver cap is denied, there's been no discussion on what that could possibly be.
Concrete step.
Well, he's proposing one thing. We have to consider what he's proposing, right? I don't think we can give motions to direct him otherwise if we don't know what would have been there in the first place, correct?
Absolutely.
Right, so we would just have a motion to approve or deny the project as presented.
Right.
And then move
I
from
would,
there.
for point of clarification, if I could, you can approve or deny in part or all or none of the motion, but as a historic district, which is unique to the Historic District Commission rather than the Planning Commission or anything else, it's incumbent upon this board to suggest appropriate materials. So if you have something that you do not want to approve, then you should also offer up a substitute for what you believe would be approved for him. So ideally, if he leaves here tonight with not exactly what he wanted, but something that the Historic District Commission is willing to approve, that's a distinct possibility. The other thing is that, again, with the structural integrity of this, there is some urgency in this, in that he'll want to get this done before the weather makes it impossible to get done, and there's a snow load on the porch, and then it further deteriorates. So those are just a couple thoughts that you might have. But I mean, with the Historic District Commission, it's different than the Planning Commission, where they don't want to design the house, but you actually do give guidance and suggestion as to what materials would be appropriate if you're going to say not this. On the other hand, if you want to take the tact and say that, well, this particular part of the porch, while it may not be original, you could use a notice to proceed for that. But if you're going to do that, it would be for a certain specific portion of the project. And then you would have to decide whether or not the material is appropriate for the notice to proceed. But the porch columns could be approved certainly under a certificate of appropriateness. So it's up to you how you want to go ahead and divide it up.
Dr. Shaman, I'm just going to ask you right now, are you completely married to all of the brickwork on your new porch, or would you be open to suggestions from the commission for maybe an alternate look?
I would definitely be open, but there's nothing historic about the current look. And again, it's completely opposite look to what the front porch looks like. And there is actually, some aesthetic design there. So again, it would be similar. And I know you guys don't want to hear it because we talked about this last time. It'd be similar designs as what other porches, on the historic block there are. So I'm not going that, left field. Again, no, but I'm not married to that design. I'm not particularly married, but it's not anything, what was proposed, I don't think is that, left field, but it's
Okay, well,
I'm not married. I mean, to answer your question, I'm not married to that design, but I'm not also married to having it being, concrete, because that's not what's A, identical everywhere else, and B, that's not even identical to what's on my, on my front porch.
Okay, well,
So,
I know you know that we consider each house by itself. It's great that it matches the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, we have two very experienced architects here saying that, maybe all that's going on might be a little bit too much. Does anybody have any other questions or would like to make a motion for, maybe we can start with a replacement of the posts, the columns?
I'll do that.
Can I just make one comment real quick,
Sure,
Louise? On the topic of the materiality of the approach and the steps and the multiple materials on the porch itself. This was, Jules described that this is a side entrance, essentially a garage entrance. Historically, you would not provide new and additional adornment to a side entrance of a house. The front entry will always get the higher grade materials and all the attention. It seems likely to me that historically this would have been a concrete approach adjacent to the driveway, maybe brick steps going up to a concrete porch. That just from a side entry, that's typically what we would see in this scenario. So I don't want my comment that it's just like way too much going on just because there's way too much going on. It's because that this location of these architectural elements and the fact that they're not the primary entrance guides us toward being a more sedate or less adorned entry. So I just want to make that clear that's why I make that comment. It's not about the style or the look and feel of it, which, by the way, black and white photos don't really do justice to the colors that you're proposing. So I would probably like to see more of that in future submittals anyway, but just that's an aside. I just want to give that clarification that's why I think that would likely be a less adorned area.
Okay, thanks, Jim. That actually is a very thoughtful explanation. Martha, did you have something you wanted to say?
I agree with him. I would look at that because of the stateliness of the house. I would look at that as a service entrance, and it would not be one that would be highlighted or called out with a lot of adornment. So I think too, he makes a good point.
Okay, Mark, did you want to make a motion in regards to the column?
Yeah, let me preface that by saying I don't want anybody to think, from my previous comments, that I'm opposed to doing more than replacing the trim at the bottoms. I would move to approve the repair or replacement of the columns as required, provided that appropriate identical materials are used for the work.
Of identical dimensions?
Identical dimensions, identical materials, presumably would be selector #1 pine. That was what would have been used in those days and would still be used for that kind of work.
Okay, is there anybody who'd like to second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Support, I'm gonna do a roll call so we can make sure that we have all the votes. Rick?
Can there be discussion before we vote?
No, we're gonna just vote. Jesus.
No, you have to have discussion on a motion.
Okay, Steve?
I'm a little bit concerned as I look at the progression of this, approving the columns on the porch without knowing what they're going to be sitting on, because you really can't do anything with a column until you rectify the problem with the foundation and the bricks and then the cap for the porch. I think that as I'm looking at this and I'm just putting my ear to the ground, I've listened to the commissioner's comments. It seems as though what's been proposed by the applicant with these interlocking bricks and the pattern and the border and all this, that it would seem, as I wet my finger and put it in the air, it's going to be a kind of a difficult uphill battle to get that push through. I don't know, we haven't had a vote. But I'm wondering if we need to explore with Dr. Shamban the possibility of him being a little more flexible with replacing the pavers with a concrete surface similar to what is there. And so at least he can walk away knowing that he can do something with a porch or with the columns, because I can't see him doing anything with the columns till he's taking care of the reconciled the porch issue.
Steve, he said he wasn't married to that.
No, I was not married. That's what that's what my architect had proposed. So I suggested, we have stones and, brick pavers, then that's the design he proposed. Again, I'm not married to, any of this, but what I do know, and I think we're all in agreement, is what I have is not acceptable. I mean, it's not safe. It's not, and obviously I want to whether change, but I mean,
just for clarification, whatever it is that the porch posts would sit on will be flush, level, and able to support the weight. So whatever discussion you get into next, this will sit on top of that.
Right.
And there's a number of options that you have for the rest of this. So if you wanted to go and approve or disapprove, whatever it is, the pleasure of the commission, the posts, then you can go to the next part. But it wouldn't change the fact that the posts have structural integrity, and whatever it is that you decide would have to be, whatever it is you decide on for what goes underneath it, would have to structurally bear that weight down to the foundation.
Thank you.
And I think it's a good place to start with something and then drill down on the rest of the project, because the applicant already said that he was, not married to the design that was presented and is open for some tweaking, and perhaps Jim's suggestion of the brick on the stairs or something similar might be acceptable to Dr. Shamban.
I'm
So,
prepared to vote since that's clarified by Hank that we can proceed on the
okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve the columns as long as the size, design, adornment is replicated as is. So, Rick?
Aye.
Okay. Robert?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And me too. Aye. Okay. Dr. Shamban got the columns done.
yay.
Okay. Now it's clear that the brickwork, that the porch is deteriorating at a fast rate. So we need to give him some relief, if at all possible this evening. So
I'll make a motion that the porch be rebuilt as is, using the brick from the existing porch with an exact mortar match and a concrete cap.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
the discussion, well, I wanted to ask Dr. Shamban if he was interested in replicating the porch exactly as is. That's the motion that's on the table right now.
And is there another suggestion?
Excuse me, may I say that this is the motion made. It isn't up to the applicant to decide whether or not it's appropriate.
No, but somebody could ask for an amendment. Hank, did you have something to say?
Yeah, for point of clarification, when we're talking about the porch, are we talking about the porch proper, or are we talking about the porch, stairs, and walkway leading up to it?
Just the porch.
The porch.
Okay, so what it is that you could do here, and just for clarification and options on this, is that when you build the porch, assuming that Dr. Shamban takes the porch down finds out that there's footing problems, which I suspect that there might be. He repours the footings, he rebuilds the porch as is, and puts the concrete cap back on because that's what the Historic District Commission thought would be appropriate for the thing. At that point in time, he would put a walkway in, perhaps with his pavers, and he could still have the pavers on the ground, and or steps, because the steps were not original to the house, that he might be able to make the paver steps and the paver walkway there. If you wanted to discuss that as part of all parts, some, none of the motion, or if Mr. Lebo would accept a friendly amendment, assuming somebody wants to give it, and or have the discussion with Dr. Shamban and see what he's comfortable with. But that's the other component. That's the third component, would be the steps and the walkway at that point.
If we're
Assuming
trying to get Dr. Shamban's house in order quickly, my proposal stands as it is. Now, we replicate the porch as it is, using as much reclaimed material.
Sorry, you cut out.
Robert, you cut out. Yeah.
Frozen. It's frozen.
Well, while we're waiting for him to come back, Dr. Shamban, did you heard everything that Hank Berry said?
No, I mean, if there's no wiggle room, I mean, that's fine. I'm not married. I mean, we will make it, identical to what it is.
He was talking about if somebody would care to ask Robert if he would amend his motion that we include the brick paver walkway and also brick steps, if that's something that the current motion that's on the table could be amended to include. Robert, would you like, are you open to changing your motion to include the walkway, brick paver walkway, and or brick stairways, since we don't know what was original to the house already?
I would not include a brick paver walkway.
Okay.
Those pavers that are specified are inappropriate to the period and style. It's a highly contemporized product and doesn't belong there. If we were to amend the amendment, if we were to amend it to include a matching brick step with a concrete cap to match the porch, I would accept that, but not the pavers.
Okay, bricks like the base of
bricks to match the porch.
Bricks to match the porch. Dr. Shaman, is that something that would interest you? It'll be the concrete cap as it is. The brick,
Okay.
Fixing the bricks, reclaiming whichever ones you can, matching the grout, and then using a similar type of brick for the steps instead of the
Similar, what type of bricks? I'm sorry.
Same brick.
The same brick that's the base of the porch.
For the steps?
Yeah.
Is that typically done? I don't know that. I don't know. Is that?
It can be done, I guess.
I've not seen that. I'm just. Is that the typical style of that era?
That would be a lot closer than what's proposed. However, what you might want to do is you might want to take Mr. Lebo's motion on its face and then discuss the steps in the walkway.
I think that's the better way to go.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, Robert, so then could you restate your motion without the steps and walkway?
I propose that we approve a rebuild of the porch as it is, using as much of the existing brick as possible, doing a precise mortar match and a concrete cap.
Okay,
And there was a second on that.
that's Martha. Okay, so Dr. Shamban, what's on the table is
Just one more
vote.
clarification. I can pour new concrete, correct? Or do I have to
Yes.
use the same
Yeah.
cap?
Yes, absolutely, new. New, and then reclaim and use all the bricks that you can, replacing
Okay.
whatever is deteriorated and matching exactly or as close as possible the mortar that's already there.
Precise mortar match.
Precise mortar match. And we're removing the steps from this motion.
Separate.
So yeah, we'll do that separately. So all those in favor of supporting Robert's motion to replace the porch as is using the bricks and mortar match and a brand new concrete cap. A roll call, Rick,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
me too. Okay, so you have the porch and the columns. So now we need just to discuss the walkway and then the steps, it's just 2 steps, correct?
You still got that.
Yes, it would be 2 steps.
2 steps. Okay, is anyone interested in proposing an idea or making a motion for the steps and or including the walkway material?
I'll give it a try. I propose that they create poured steps. In other words, create a form and pour the concrete to match the color and grade of the concrete on the porch cap. And continue that concrete on the sidewalk leading up to the steps in the porch.
Second.
Okay, that's Martha and Rick DeBannon. Is there any discussion on what's on the table? I have a question to Jim and Chris. Are poured concrete stairs more in line with what would have been original to the house in 1952 when it was built?
My opinion would be if they were poured concrete steps to begin with, we probably wouldn't be talking about the cheap steps that are there now. They probably still would be intact. That said, I think it is absolutely a period appropriate step style, but I don't believe that was what was there originally.
Okay.
Chris may disagree.
Chris?
No, I mean, for my opinion, that, we don't know what was there. And then, the Department of Interior standards say that when you don't know what's there, you don't want to create a false sense of historicism. So it's my opinion that I don't have a strong opinion of what goes there because I don't think it's under my purveyance as long as it doesn't create a false sense of historicism.
Okay.
And it's clearly new because we do not know what it is.
Okay.
Just for clarification too, the steps that are there are nowhere near original. So whatever you get and propose, you're going to get something that is going to be significantly better than what's there now, because those are cast.
Right.
And they sit on blocks. There's little blocks that they sit. That's what holds up the second floor. And then the top part lays the front edge on the back of the step below it. And then there's blocks on the side, and it's all mortared in. That's all hollow under there, except for maybe a little mud thrown against the base of that. So that's one of the reasons they deteriorate so fast. So whatever would have been there, whether it was cast or originally perhaps there were brick stairs there, but like Chris said, we have no idea what was exactly there to begin with. So
does a poured concrete step like that require a foundation?
absolutely.
So if
That's the problem with the whole porch is I'm betting that there's little to no foundation under it.
So you have to build in like a substructure underneath those steps also. Correct?
You're going to do that anyway. If those sat on just a 4-inch slab of concrete with poured steps, typically what they do is they'll pour the walkway and the steps at one time. Underneath the steps, they'll mound the sand So the sand, the concrete will actually sit on those. Those steps will actually be, in some spots, as thick as a slab or more. So that's how those steps are put together. And then they'll go down to the forms, which would hold the walkway into place. So having said that, the way that they're going to do this is they're going to go ahead and they're going to pour the top cap, they'll pour the steps, they'll pour the driveway, they'll back themselves down to the end of the driveway with this. And that's how that's going to end up working. But the steps are not, you know, I mean, it's not necessarily a foundation, but there will be dug out on the side so that there's some kind of footing for that to be under there, albeit small.
Okay, Dr. Shamban, the commissioner is proposing a poured concrete step and walk. Is that something that you would be okay with?
No,
Okay.
because it's not original. I mean, it's, I mean, I guess it's one thing, you know, replacing it for identical, but if it's not the identical, then I don't, and again, I can have a different design proposed, but that's not the original. So.
Can I speak up, please, and explain my reasoning? What I am doing is matching your steps to the cap that has already been approved. So the materials will go together and they will work nicely with the color brick you have on your home right now. If you introduce gray stepping stones or whatever it was that you had on the cut sheet, that's introducing another color and it won't go. So what I've proposed is something that's structurally sound and will last longer than having a brick foundation with another cap on top, because when you have brick, you have mortar in between, and eventually that's going to break down, which is what has happened to your porch now, which is why your column is loose, because it's sunk. These steps will last a lot longer. And I know this because I have those kinds of steps on my 1940 house. And I also have the kind that you have right now, the cast ones, on a redo on my side porch, and they're already falling apart. So I tried to choose something that would last a long time for you and be structurally sound and aesthetically pleasing. So it's up to your cement person to build a form that's going to have an elegance to the way it's put up, and you can decide the size of your risers. It will all work out very nicely, and I think you'll be pleased with them. And they'll also be a lot easier to clean off than a brick step would be in the wintertime when you have snow. So that's the reasoning behind my proposal.
Okay, thanks, Martha, for that explanation. As an artist, I know you look with that kind of critical eye. Dr. Shamban, given Martha's explanation of the steps, we still have to vote on the motion on the table, but is that something you want us to approve?
I guess if I change the color scheme, would you guys be more willing to approve that?
Color scheme meaning using a
different bricks. I guess the color scheme. If we chose different color schemes. I mean,
if you used a color brick that was already on the existing house.
or something similar to that, or is it the actual brick component that bought? Is it the color scheme? I guess I'm confused. I mean, if we're not replacing identical for identical, then I don't know what the.
Martha, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I would leave it the way it is. I'm not going to
vote.
That's the proposal that I made, based upon what I told you. Again, if you're going to put pavers down, that would be, you have little cracks in between them. They shift and move. So I'm dealing with the steps and the material running up to the steps. That's my proposal. So if someone wants to second it, fine. If not, then somebody else can make a proposal.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, I thought Rick already had seconded that earlier in the discussion.
You
Okay.
have Martha's motion seconded by Rick.
Okay. Okay, we can go ahead and take a vote. Rick? Rick, do you support?
Rick seconded it.
Oh, he seconded it, so I get support. Chris?
No.
Steve?
Are we voting on
Voting on the steps and the walkway.
As
concrete
poured,
walkway?
poured concrete.
Aye.
Jim?
No.
Mark?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
I'm a no.
Did you still have, how many,
Rick?
did we miss anybody?
Rick, Martha?
Aye, I said aye. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Robert? Yeah. 6 yeas.
Okay, so wait a minute. So you have, as a yay, you have Rick, you have Martha, you have Robert, you have Steve, you have Mark. And Louise?
No.
Okay, so you have 5. 5 is the vote number that you need to approve. So that would be approved as that. If Dr. Shanban wanted to propose something different, he would be free to do so. But in the meantime, he's got his porch, he's got the walkway as it is, or he can leave the walkway as it is and put his old steps back, the ones that he has now.
Okay, would he need to come back if he wants to propose maybe a matching brick paver or some other kind of steps?
He would.
Okay. Okay, so Dr. Shaman, you have your, you have the porch, you have the columns, and then as Martha proposed, the commission has approved poured steps and a concrete walk to match. And that was a 6-3 in support. So if there's something else, something different that you'd like to propose, maybe a matching brick, we're more than happy to revisit this with you. You can talk to Hank about the process and what you need to do.
Madam Chair, then that would conclude your business with this application, and you can move on to the next.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming to the meeting, Dr. Shaman.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night. Okay, so we're moving on to the, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, matter C, the matter of a new driveway and walkway configuration rear and side yard wall for the Appledorn residence at 26836 York.
Madam Chair, there has been some clarification on this, and the configuration really has not changed. What has changed is a border of brick that'll be going on it, and then it was in the backyard, so in the backyard it's administrative approval.
Okay.
It does come around to the side yard, and what appeared to be by the original print as a wall, but now we're looking at it as a much lower step issue. So it's going to be like 3 risers on the side, and that's simply to accommodate the grade change. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Appledorn.
That's correct. Thank you.
Yeah, and then so what we're looking at is you're looking at it one and really only because it comes into the side yard. It negates any administrative approval. Once it passes the rearmost portion of the house, it goes back to the HGC, and administratively, it's not something that I would be able to approve. So it's here in front of you. Whether it's steps or whatever, it's a structure. So if you have that, that's where you would fall with that. So whatever questions you might have for Mr. Appledorn, certainly feel free to ask.
Hey, Mr. Appledorn, do you have anything else to add to Mr. Gregory just made?
No, I spoke with some members of the commission today who came out to look at the yard. We did take into account the 10 principles of the Secretary of the Interior. I might be butchering those things.
Thank you.
You know, the only, I guess, structure that we're proposing to replace is the side step. It's out of code. It's dangerous. It is concrete. We are replacing them with concrete pavers. You know, we're not, I think, in accordance with 9 and 10 of those principles, or whatever they're, I guess, called. You know, we're not trying to mimic or you know, create a false impression of a historic structure using the new pavers. And the design really does flow into the backyard, as it creates a level structure with both doors, the back door and the side door. Finally, it's hardly viewable from the street. I shared with Hank earlier, actually yesterday, so not, I guess, in time to make this meeting perhaps. 3 pictures of the front yard. Photo A, photo B is the side, or the area is unviewable from someone passing the house. Photo C shows what is viewable and when it is viewable. And you really do have to kind of crook your neck to get back and see it. But I understand, we respect the commission. We see that it's a full process, and we're here to talk about it.
Certainly it's a full process. Hank, do you have anything else to add to the comments you initially?
Yeah, you know, and again, this starts out as a landscape retention wall, which is allowed in the backyard. And then as soon as the continuation of it, it follows the driveway. So he's fortunate enough to have a bigger yard where he can do this. And then it steps down. You have to have a point you have to get from point A to point B. And the method he's chosen to do is to incorporate the steps into this wall area. And that's how he's getting to it on the side yard. So having said that, basically what he's looking to do is he's just looking to get from one level to the next. It goes up, help me out here, Tom. It's not a large amount, but it doesn't go up. I would say it's certainly not more than 25% of the house.
No, it's 18 inches. It goes up.
No. I mean, from the rear portion to where it ends.
Oh, it's about 25%, correct.
Okay, so it's probably about 25% of that. So 75% of the view of the side yard of the house would not have this in it. And this is just a feature to get from point A to point B, and it starts as a landscape retention feature in the rear yard.
And the way it works is we're on a hill, and so as you come down the driveway, it grades down. And so what you're going to see, or what you won't see really, is this flat surface until you walk down the driveway and it grades down. And at that point are those steps, which go back up to that side door.
Can everybody see this?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so here, this back portion here is where my purview stops and yours starts going this way. So this is the area here that's in question. Where this is a little bit misleading is over here, this white area on the side, that's the actual driveway. So this is the area between the house and the driveway. And this is where this wall, which is higher here, excuse me, goes down and transposes into here with these different color layers being actual steps.
That's right.
Is that correct, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey, can you clarify where you said wall, and then you said there's steps. Can you show me where does the elevation change, and what is a step and what is a wall? I don't understand that.
This goes from here as a wall. And I mean by wall, I don't want to mislead people and say that that's a 6-foot wall, because I don't believe anywhere it reaches over 30 inches.
Those are, just to clarify, that's not a wall. We're using wall structure pavers, but they're actually 3 6-inch rise steps.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
So this is right here is the same thing. So you've got one riser here, a second riser here, and then the third.
That's right. And so there's steps all the way around for safety, because we are at 2 levels. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. And then the paver patio here, which is already approved and fine because that's allowable, that's already done. So basically right here, if you did nothing else, you'd be cutting this off and you would have no blending of that particular area. So that would be an elevation change. with no finesse or no finishing.
Okay,
Hey, just for clarification, is there a door over on the side there? I can't remember now that.
Yeah, that's what's actually driving this whole thing. There's a door right at the where his cursor is there.
Right here.
So that allows you to be able to walk out and access this whole thing on one level versus stepping down and then stepping back up.
That's right.
So step and then into another step.
Correct.
Yeah, and the landing's actually code.
May I say something?
Yes, sir.
I looked at this house this afternoon, and the area that we're looking at, really more than anything else, is a health and safety issue. The side door has a very, very narrow step. It's far below code requirement, and that step is low in relationship to the door threshold. It is a super easy fall, a dangerous fall. And the proposed plan would eliminate that danger and make it a much safer area to transit.
thank you, Robert. So in addition to a certificate of appropriateness, we could also do a notice to proceed if anybody has a problem with a design. Safety being the driving factor there. And Hank, just for clarification, if we approve, then it will go to the ZBA.
Well, if it becomes a step, and I mean, that's again what we have to determine, because we just recently came into the concept that it wasn't landscape retaining, that it was step.
Sorry, guys.
If it's, no, it's okay. If it turns out that it's a step and it just retains the earth to create the landing for that, that will not need ZBA.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ebeldorn, Jim?
I don't have any questions for the applicant. Hank, I have a question for you. Is this the right time to ask that question?
Absolutely.
Does this, I assume this goes through building department code review. Has it already gone through that?
No, it doesn't until we get approval, and then he has to meet the building codes after that. Dwayne will get that when he comes through. So whatever.
Right. So my only concern about it is the distance from the side door, the shortest dimension straight out from the side door to the first step. And I guess that would be covered. They would look at that in the building code review.
That would be correct.
And I mean, if he had to make a minor adjustment to get landing clearance out there, that drawing doesn't give us enough information to know exactly where it's at.
That would be something that the building department would decide. And if that's what it took to make the safety would be paramount, and that's what it would be. So, and I'm sure Mr.
So
Elford
you wouldn't have to redesign it and come back to us. You could do that.
That is
through
correct.
the building department administratively. Okay.
That is
perfect.
correct.
I have no questions then.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Chris, do you have anything?
Nope, all set. Thanks.
Okay, Steve,
Aye.
Martha,
No questions.
Mark,
Nothing.
Robert?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Is anybody's interested in making a motion?
You got public participation?
comment?
Probably.
Oh, sorry. Oh, do we have public participation? Lois, is that you?
No, I have nothing to say. We're happy that.
No problem.
We're happy that it's happening.
Thank
Okay,
you, Lois.
we like that.
Thanks,
Then
Steve.
we'll go ahead and close public participation. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the plan as submitted. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the technical term. Is it the certificate of appropriateness?
Yeah.
And I just think that, it's a very good solution to address the safety issues, and is very appropriate to, and it's in alignment with all of our standards.
Second.
That's Robert as a second.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to roll call for vote. Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Me as well. Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tom.
enjoy.
Thanks.
Great project.
Tom, just so that you're aware, have your landscape, show the
on.
diagram and get that in so that we can get that looked at and you can finish your project.
Fabulous. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Thanks
very
all.
much.
Okay, have a good night then.
Madam Chair, that's all I have for this evening, unless anybody has questions.
No other business. Does anybody have any
I have-
questions or comments?
I have one comment. I've noticed a series, it may be that we're in remote times here, but I've noticed that we've gotten the last few meetings, the submittal materials have been very much inadequate for proper review of we don't see any colors. We don't see, we haven't seen an architect's drawing or any kind of engineered material that supports the claims of the applicant. So Hank, I guess, and if that's the process, that is what it is. But I'm wondering, do we have a checklist of some kind or something that we can lean on to get better submittal materials?
We do. Part of the issue is that right now there's only one machine at City Hall that can print color, and that's kind of commandeered at this point for the election. So I don't have any way of printing color. So what I did was I tried to scan it, break it up for everybody to try to get it under 25 megs because nobody can take it and I can't send it. So as a result, you got 5 pieces. So what I tried to do then was to try to send you additional black and white copies, which I can make out for that.
So
as far as that, because we're also deficient in the fact that we're looking for somebody to do minutes, and we believe we may have found somebody. The last person that we had that said that they would do it worked on it for a very short period of time, didn't finish a set, and then sent me a notice saying that they don't want to do it. So we have some issues that we're trying to work through here. A lot of it is that what I'm getting is that it would be the preference of the city to send materials electronically rather than have contact and materials change hands. Having said that, I don't have a problem delivering a hard copy if somebody wants it, but I need to know well in advance if they do, because I can't deliver plans that I don't have. And if they're sending me electronic copies, I'm trying to comply with what the wishes of the city would be and what protocols for COVID would be, and that. So I would like to have, if you do want hard copies, which is certainly available, then I would need to get the materials here, have them sit for 3 days prior to even looking at them, and then putting them in your packets. And that would be the other way that I can do this.
I don't need hard copies, but for example, the tile, he had 5 different materials on his porch. A cut sheet or a model, a manufacturer, something that we can look it up online. I think that I'm less concerned about the processing of the material from you to us, because I think that is what it is. But if we can't get the applicants to provide us real details on what they're proposing, I would have liked to see a landscape architect or landscaper doing structural analysis on a porch is insufficient, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't know that our committee here has the teeth, for lack of a better word, to force them to get something drawn up, get it engineered, prove your point.
We can, well, right. And to that end, what we got for the porch was significantly more material than we got for the windows. So which we didn't allow. He hasn't even, we haven't gone down that road yet. So. Right. So I think, particularly, at least this applicant has provided better materials. I hope when and if he does decide to do the porch or to do the windows, that we get exactly what we asked for. Basically, the porch columns, you could have done one of a couple things. You could have hired an architect or a structural engineer to come out, take a look at it, and write a letter.
That's right.
That would have, put that to bed. And again, if you take a look at it when you go out on your site visits, not wanting to take a screwdriver and poke it through there and see if there was anything with the 4x4, the double 2x4s under there, in what they were doing. It still wouldn't negate the fact that the porch is there. And I don't think that the landscaper who gave Dr. Shamban his proposal and his thoughts took into consideration that there may be a footing failure or some reason that that post did move. It didn't move by itself. There was an event that created that to move. So it's either a footing deterioration of one of the components. It didn't blow over that way. So yeah, to answer your question, we can try to get more, but ultimately I can only give to you what they give to me. So
Okay.
we do try.
I understand that, but we are also required to render judgment within 60 days. So they can, I mean, I guess if we're unhappy with the quality of the submittal, we can just move to reject it.
Yes.
That's our only action, right?
That's like with the windows. That would be an appropriate course of action. But you also, if you have something that you feel you're fairly close to resolving, tabling it as a courtesy to the resident that you may wish to provide. If you feel you're nowhere near where you need to be with it, the denial would be the process to take, and then they're free to resubmit with more information.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I know we're already late. I just want to get that out there because I've noticed.
No, that's, listen, believe me, that's very helpful.
And I would like to say too, with regard to the difference between turning it down and tabling is, if in the next month, when we come back, if we don't have a quorum, then they get it regardless of whether they have the materials or not. So that's something that we always have to consider as well. So it is prudent to turn it down if we don't have the information we need to make a good decision on behalf of them. It is, after all, for them that we're making this decision, so that they get the best structure and the best fit for their home.
Okay, unless anybody has anything else to say, and I see that there's no public for participation beyond this, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Robert.
Got a debate to go to.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye, bye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a great week.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.